Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, staff. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting for the Town of Pelham Council for Monday, March 7th, 2016, to order. I might want to put this in a different spot here. This is an award that I'm going to talk about later, but I'm going to maybe put that down so I can see. For me? So we do have quorum, and before we begin our formal agenda, I do want to ask that we have a moment of silence for one of our long-serving firefighters, and that is Ralph Smith. Ralph served with the Pelham Fire Service for 42 years and was a member of the association for 46 years. Always a smile on his face, always cared for the community. Just a great gentleman, a great guy. He recently passed away. I was just looking for the fire chief's report because he put it in his report very nicely in terms of the amount of firefighters that were at the visitation. There was an honor guard at the visitation that was recently held, and the firefighters walked through at that. And I would ask all to take a moment of silence now and to remember Ralph Smith. Thank you. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, and we appreciate Ralph's dedication and service to the community. Now we'll begin by singing the national anthem, which will be led by Councillor Papp. All who are able, please rise. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot of, in all thy sons' command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you, Councillor Papp. Thank you all. It has been moved by Councillor Ribiak, seconded by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved that the agenda for the March 7th, 2016 regular meeting of Council be adopted as circulated. We have a few amendments, some that were posted, some that were not. This is Councillor Durley. Councillor Durley wishing to add information regarding the 2021 Canada Summer Games, or Canada Games, and it's information from the region of Niagara, and I believe that's seconded by Councillor King. Any discussion to that? Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion, that amendment is carried. We have an amendment from Councillor Ribiak. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Papp, that agenda item 13.2.1 be removed from the agenda. Call the question on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? That amendment carries. And Councillor Papp moving that that an item be added to the agenda 20.2, section 239.2b regarding an identifiable individual, and that's seconded by Councillor Durley. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. So now to the main motion on the agenda as amended. So that's adding an item 14.4 of the Canada Games, removing an item 13.2.1, and adding an item 20.2 under identifiable individuals. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried as amended. Thank you. Next, we have the disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. That is any conflicts of interest that any members may have. Do any members have any conflicts of interest?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I do have one conflict of interest, and it's relating to 16.1.4, which is 792 Welland Road. I own property within the zoning circulation of that property, and I would, so therefore I'm in a conflict. And I would also ask that when council considers the bylaw, that perhaps it might be the deputy mayor to sign that bylaw and not the mayor, should it be approved. So I do have a conflict for that. We do not have any presentations or delegations, but we do have Regional Councillor Beatty, who's here for his regional report. Thank you very much for joining us, Councillor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council and staff. Fairly short report. I must say this was the first meeting I was not in attendance in the 12 years I've been involved. The District School Board of Niagara was holding a fundraising event with regard, they finished last year with the Wood End Centre in terms of the fundraising, and now they're turning their attention to the rehabilitation of the St. John Centre, and I've been actively involved with them through my role on the Escarpment Commission. So it's a case of the update report will be from the Mayor primarily about the Canada Games initiative, but there may be some other things as well. The only thing I wanted to bring to council's attention, obviously listen to any questions you might have on the report, but there's a fairly substantial coordinated provincial review update. The Crombie panel obviously made its determination in terms of the significant discussion that took place across the province, and this is the regional response to that, which is taken into account to a great degree comments that you've made from your council. But it hasn't been received by you. It's planned to be circulated in the near future, or already has. I'm not sure in the last 2 weeks. That's the only item I wanted to bring to attention, but should there be questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Beatty, any questions for Councillor Beatty with his regional report? Councillor Papp?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Beatty, I'm just looking for clarification. It states that a councillor requested response with policy and steps with respect to the collection of arrears and evictions of long-term care home residents.
Yes.
Can you explain that? I'm curious.
No, just simply that, in terms of if there are arrears or if there's a case of eviction, what would the process be? It was simply that kind. It wasn't looking to have that done, but it was looking to clarify what happens if people are in arrears, et cetera.
In one of the regional homes for the aged.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the issue, Councillor, was committee received information regarding an account that was in arrears for a significant period of time, and it wasn't clear what had been done to resolve the issue, and so I think the councillor was asking for information, sort of in general, what do you normally do? Why was this many years in the making, sort of thing?
That's what I suspected, but interesting.
Thank you.
Because in my career, I've never come across that.
I think part of it,
Fascinating.
I don't know the councillor who made the request because it was on the committee that the mayor serves on, but it's a case where there's been a lot of discussion coming from NRH in particular.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah.
Recently, so I don't know this, but my assumption would be that discussion has triggered, well, what about people who are in our long-term care facilities or retirement homes, or whatever the case may be.
At that, when I saw that, I thought it was NRH, and then when I read, just curious. That's all. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the Canada Games, Regional Council did debate that or discuss that. We did receive a presentation, and it has gone to several councils. It was endorsed by Regional Council, and Regional Council, I think, set aside $85,000 for that, to put together that package. That package or that bid isn't due, I believe, until the fall, but there needs to be significant work to be done on that. So that was approved at the region, among the other items on the that you've outlined in your report.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask you, because I was at the school board event, a lot of media attention to the budget and the reference to GO. Was there any discussion or clarification of that
That's
issue?
true. So the regional chair did arrive late because he was in Toronto, and we had the deputy chair, Councillor Edgar, there. And the regional chair, when he came in, folks were very, very happy and gave him a round of applause, etc. And he held up the budget report with the reference to GO So very, very, very pleased. Regional Council was with the results of the mention of GO in the budget. So that was, a highlight of the evening. The regional chair spoke about it, saying that they're looking for information coming in June for that, with a timeline in terms of where that's coming from the province. So it's the first time that information's been added to the budget about GO, and all see it as a hopeful sign.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Councillor Papp?
Just quickly, Councillor Beatty, through Mr. Mayor, the Social Housing Alternative Service Delivery Review, that task force, I had as mentioned to the mayor, I ran into Councillor Grenier from the Niagara Regional Housing. I was asking about how this is all going to work, since I asked purposely what happened to our notice of motion with respect to social housing. So he mentioned that this apparently review is going to be undertaken, how they're going to proceed with any further, I guess, development of social housing. I'm just not clear where is this all going, and how. I wanted to know how does local municipalities and requests for social housing fit into this? Are we going to be part of that, or, I'm just curious.
For me personally, it's a learning curve. We're doing this issue on both fronts, both for long-term care home, for the
Right.
3 homes that are
Yeah,
up for renewal in this area. There was, and unfortunately, by sitting on different committees, you don't always hear the greatest reports. I've heard people who were at, I believe, corporate services, getting a very comprehensive discussion and understanding of what 3P means and so on, and
Right.
what the alternatives are, coming away from it, going into it fairly skeptical, coming away fairly positive. I don't know if we can have a repeat of that presentation, but I'd like to take part in that for the same reason that you.
Yeah, I'd like to understand.
Where do we
that.
fit in? For most of us, myself, I won't say for most of us, for most of us, I think sometimes we take the idea of some concept, we know the way it is, and in the case of long-term care homes, I'm very, very pleased. I've had the experience of looking at private as well as our public homes, and extremely pleased by the taxpayers' services throughout Niagara. The private partnership, I'm not uncertain of, but obviously the presentation received by others was very positive, to say, well, maybe we should look at this. Maybe it's a better bang for the buck for taxpayers, as well as providing the quality of service that we're used to. So I have to assume that the same discussion is going on at Niagara Regional Housing. But we'll follow through, both Dave and I will follow
Yeah, please,
through.
we haven't heard, I wasn't putting him on a spot, just to ask, we haven't heard anything. And there was one point they came here, as you remember, Mr. Mayor, they said there was money available. I just said to Councilor Grenier, just tell us, is it available, isn't it available? Because we're looking at options at East Font Hill, we're trying to figure out what is the possibility. Then I read that they're going to do this review. And I said, okay, well, explain to me how that, so I'll await to see how this unfolds. Because
Yeah, and I'll push it as well, Councillor, because
I know you will, yeah.
the alternative service delivery review is going to take some time to get up and running, and in the meantime, there's federal dollars available.
Right.
So it is something that Niagara Regional Housing should be looking at, and they did. You're right. They did present here, so we'll follow up on that.
Yeah, particularly since we sent the notice of motion to them asking,
Right.
And that
I'm
was
being
in-
more blunt. I'm saying simply just respond to us and say, received it, acknowledged it, we're going to deal with it, right? And I'll leave that up to the two of you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor.
And as you recognize, new leadership
Right.
in that role in housing as
Right.
well.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Beatty. And it has been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Durley, be it resolved the March 7, 2016 report submitted by Regional Councillor Beatty be received for information. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thanks again, Councillor Beatty.
Sure.
We'll see you at the regional meetings over the next couple of days. Thank you. Thank you. Next is the adoption of minutes of council. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor Durley. Be it resolved the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Minutes of the special meeting of council of February 16th, 2016, and minutes of the regular meeting of council of February 16th, 2016. Any errors or omissions? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next item is consent agenda items to be considered in block. Are there any items, do have a mover and a seconder, but are there any items that council would like to lift for separate consideration? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 11.5.2, the motion from City of St. Catharines.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ribbiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pose an amendment regarding one of the recommendations from COW. So do we lift the entire set of recommendations for the one, or
It's regarding the recommendation sheet, one of the items on the recommendation sheet.
From
Should you-
PNP?
From PNP. Should you?
from COW, I think?
I think it was PNP.
PNP, there weren't any recommendations listed from COW.
It was from 2.1.
resolution.
Let's lift all of 2.1. How's that sound?
Okay,
Okay.
good.
2.1 here, which is 11.2.1 for those that are following along in the agenda. Okay. Any others?
Practice policies.
Thank you. It has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King. Be it resolved, the following consent agenda items be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. Recommendations, I'm sorry, so it's number 1 here that we're moving. So it's 11.1, not 11.2.1. It's 11.1. So that's been lifted. But the minutes from the committee meetings of Policy and Priorities Committee of February 16th and of the Special Committee of the Whole of February 29th, those minutes that they be approved. Action correspondence of a routine nature, Came and Kettle Beer Works with patio support. Be it resolved, the council received the correspondence dated February 25th, 2016 from Came and Kettle Beer Works, Inc., and the council supports the inclusion of an outdoor patio within the licensed area for this operation located at 1423-21 Pelham Street. Correspondence from the Pelham Art Festival, request for community event status, and the recommendation is be it resolved that the correspondence dated February 22nd, 2016 regarding the 2016 Pelham Art Festival and community event status be received, and that the festival outlined herein be and is hereby designated as a community event of municipal significance, and the clerk be directed to advise the art festival representatives. The next item, Lipo Park request for community festivals and special occasion permits. Be it resolved, the council receives the correspondence from Lipo Park representatives being a request for community festivals and special occasion permits. And the council approve the request to hold community festivals on the following days: May 23rd, Slovenian Open House; July 10th, Sausage Festival; August 7th, Music in the Park Festival; on October 6th, Oktoberfest, and that the festivals outlined therein be and are hereby designated as community events of municipal significance, and the clerk be directed to advise Lipo Park. We have a series of correspondence items for information. The first is regarding the OMAFRA grant scoring. The second item, which is a motion from the City of St. Catharines, has been lifted. The third, the Ontario Municipal Board decision of. The fourth being the Celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary from the Communities in Bloom. The fifth is a thank you letter from Heidehoff Care for the Aged. The sixth, a thank you letter from the Kinsman Club of Fawn Hill and District for the acoustic panels in Old Pelham Town Hall. And the seventh is from MPP Baker, representing Etobicoke, with a thank you for presenting to the committee. And we do have one item of minutes, and that's minutes of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, Youth Advisory Council of January 26th, 2016.
Did you want the Canada Games included with the consent agenda or a separate item?
Let's do this separately. Thank you. So the clerk asked Canada Games as a separate item or included here. We'll just deal with it separately. Keep it clean. Okay? Anything regarding any of those items under the consent agenda? I do want to acknowledge the letter for the Heidehoff Care for the Aged, the thank you letter, and certainly commend staff for assisting them. Obviously, it was very helpful to them, so thank you very much for those staff, Mr. CAO, that were involved in helping them, as you have helped a number of other groups and organizations. And the Kinsman Club, it's a funny letter in terms of now they're able to hear each other. So very pleased that the acoustic panels can help with that. And it was great to be there, and you could certainly hear at the Citizen of the Year. So great to see. Anything else on any of the other items of correspondence? Oh, Councilor Ribbiak.
Yes, the correspondence that we've received from communities in Bloom, Ontario regarding the 150th anniversary, the motion is to receive it for information and certainly support that. But I wonder whether that mightn't be passed on as well to the Beautification Committee for recommendation, in as much as that committee seems to have inherited most of the communities in Bloom activities.
Okay, so you want to forward it on to that?
I
The-
I think it would be
Okay.
a way of handling
The
that.
clerk's indicating that we can take that as direction, that be
Yep.
forwarded to the Beautification Committee. So thank you very much for that. And I know that the Canada Day Committee is looking at that as well, so something for celebrating. So thank you. So that, let's include that. Anything further? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you. And I noticed that one of the proponents of one of the letters is here, so you now have a council resolution. So thank you for joining us this evening. You're welcome to stay. Thank you.
Yeah, get out.
Councillor Durley has lifted an item regarding Via Rail service in Niagara. Councillor Durley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of St. Catharines has passed a resolution to urge the federal government and Via Rail to restore effective Via Rail train service in Niagara. They list a number of whereases, and there are numerous advantages to not only the line that's there, but all of Niagara and students and the economic development and tourism and all of that good stuff. So I'm making a motion to support and endorse this and to circulate it to all the people that they want to be notified of that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durley, and I see that Councillor King is seconding that resolution. Any further discussion to that? Councillor Papp?
And along with that I would suggest that MP Ellison and Badaway, all of them be very, very strongly advised that we are in support of reestablishing, I couldn't agree more, that Via Rail line. That is a crucial part that would also enhance any other transit aspects that we're trying to also build on.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and certainly the resolution will be forwarded to Councillor Durley indicated Via Rail,
Yep.
the Prime Minister, local MPs, Minister Bradley, local MPPs, etc. So thank you. Anything further? There being none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Ribbiak, you lifted an item regarding the recommendations from PNP.
I did. It is from PNP, and I appreciate the correction. This is with regard to resolution number 2016-0216-073, the municipal drain maintenance policy and municipal drain apportionment policy.
Yes.
My recollection of that policy is that it is extremely procedural in its formation. It has a tremendous amount of detail. I think the policy aspect of it is accurate and good, but the extent to which you have all that detail kind of suggests a couple of things. Number one, I suppose if any change from that is appropriate based on whatever the circumstances are, then that has to come back to council in order to make changes, or indeed if there are changes at any other level of government that might affect the procedures, then it has to come back to us. It would seem to me that our policy is that we would want to pursue municipal drains as a solution to issues as it arises. We want to do it in accordance with the law. We want to do it in a timely way. But I think the procedure in it might be a little heavy, and I'm just wondering whether it mightn't stand a bit of a redraft just to make it more of a policy and less of a procedure. I don't know whether colleagues are supportive of that, but it just seems to me like it might stand some improvement in that way.
Thank you very much, Councillor. It's an interesting discussion. We're actually having that discussion at several policies at the region, and I know staff here are assisting the region with that. The regional policies are like this thick, and yet they really only need to be sort of more overarching. The solution statement for these are quite, especially one of them is quite involved. So you're recommending that it be sent back to staff and make it sort of less.
Make it more of a policy and
More
less
of
of
a
a
policy.
procedure. The procedure can follow behind it and can therefore be changed as necessary without council necessarily making those
Okay.
changes.
thank you. So the motion is to receive it and to send it back to staff, to them, to refine the policy and make it more of a policy in nature, and then,
Yes.
okay? Is there a seconder for that? Is there a second? Counselor Papp? Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion to that? We ready for calling the question of referring that item back? All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. And I think we need to do the balance of the recommendations from PNP and Committee of the Whole. Do I simply call the question on that, or is that because it would have been moved?
Nobody moved it, so you move it.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that it was Councillor Durley and Councillor King, since they were the movers of the original consent agenda motion. Has been moved for the remainder of the recommendations from PNP and Committee of the Whole. And I would ask that any other items regarding that? There be none, I'm going to call the question on those recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We do have a motion that's been moved by Councillor Papp, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak. Be it resolved that Council receive the correspondence from the Regional Municipality of Niagara revised regarding the Niagara Region's participation in the 2021 Canada Summer Games, and that the Town of Pelham hereby supports the region's initiative for Niagara to host the 2021 Canada Summer Games, and that the clerk be directed to so advise the region of Niagara. Any discussion regarding this item? Councillor Durlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although I'm all for bringing these games here, it's sometimes, and the report does point out that the federal and provincial government are going to assist in some of the funding. The region is going to be on the hook for some monies and other things, and we don't know what those other things are. Quite often when an initiative like this comes in, new facilities are needed, or old facilities are needed to be fixed up in order to accommodate this and so on. And I'm thinking that we better give a lot of consideration to the facilities and the possibilities that we do have, because if in fact we need to, or there is a need, and I'm not saying we, if there is a need to build new facilities and so on, we could be running up into some large expenses. And at this particular point in time, I don't think the region is really in a position to spend millions of dollars on things like this, nor are some municipalities. So I think we need to proceed with caution. Yes, go ahead and get it, but I think we need to really investigate what is necessary to host these games, and in fact, if the costs are prohibitive of things that we need to add to the mix, we should have a real sober second look at that, and that's a caution that I put out.
Thank you very much, Councillor. This was discussed a little bit at the region, as I mentioned for Councillor Beatty earlier. It was stated by the Niagara Sport Commission that in their estimation and the understanding of existing facilities, the facility that would be required to be constructed would be the track, and that it would be under $5 million, that type of thing, for that to be built if it were to go ahead. They suspected that there would be support from upper levels of government in order to do that. The initiative and the reason why Regional Council supported it unanimously was because it really was the starting point to give some funding to the Niagara Sport Commission to allow them to put the bid together. Before the bid goes forward, which I indicated earlier would be in the fall, Regional Council said that it wanted to approve that bid before it went forward. So with an understanding of just exactly what you're suggesting and talking about. So what are we? What do these games look like? What we could do is we could invite a representative of the Niagara Sport Commission to come here to make a presentation to council and answer questions, outline, for example, what kind of they have in mind. And certainly this was a couple of weeks ago at the region, so they would be well along their way or starting along their way in terms of what they're designing. So we could do that as well, to get that and ask then that if the town's involved in any portion of that, that we would want to approve that portion of the bid going forward. Does that help, Councillor, if we were to do that?
Yes, it does. I'm quite interested in actually where these venues are going to be, what these facilities are going to be, and the subsequent costs that would be associated to it. And this is the package that I'm looking for, a report telling us who, what, why, when, and where, and how much is something I think that is vital. And, I would appreciate being informed of that particular information.
Okay, thank you very much. Any others to the motion? Councillor Pat?
So just picking up on what you're suggesting, then we would extend an invitation, concrete, to have them come here and do exactly what Councillor Durley.
I think we should do that.
We need to do that, yeah, to find out. Yeah.
Do you want to do that in advance of approving this motion? Or do you want to approve this, which is really supporting the region's initiative to host, and then add that to ask for a presentation? Councillor Gurley?
No, frankly, we can approve this because the application is a formality to even get us in the ballgame.
If we,
And to follow up after that, I think really is where the information is going to flow.
Okay, thank you. So if we can take that as direction to the staff to organize and ask them to present here at a council meeting to give us more information about it. Okay? Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Anything further to the motion? There being none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried as well. Thank you. And we look forward to a presentation. Thank you. Now we move to reports. Presentation, consideration of reports, and there's one item which is my report. There we are. It's a pleasure and honor to report for the 3 weeks since our last meeting. I do want to highlight the installation dinner held by the Fenwick Volunteer Firefighters Association on the 20th of February. It was wonderful that we had almost every councillor in attendance at that event. It was a very, very warm event in terms of the atmosphere, and it's just, again, on behalf of council, I appreciate the generosity and the dedication and the sacrifice of members of the Firefighters Association and firefighters across the town. Number of service medals were given out, lots of teasing and in a fun nature. And I called to mind how, and I think the chief's report again talks about bearskin, but how one of the firefighters, the amount of care that he put into that, and I spoke about that. So thanks, please pass along. Thanks again, Chief, to the Fenwick Volunteer Firefighters Association for hosting that event. Councillor Beatty and I and the CAO participated in what was termed a shared priorities meeting. I alluded to this last council meeting. It was with the regional chair and the CAO from the region. We talked about some things that are going to be impacting the town over coming months. They include things like the development in the East Vaughan Hill area, the Regional Road 20 resurfacing in 2016, and there's information in the director's report about that. Town Council's Greater Niagara Circle route motion, and we're seeing on email some movement on that, and also the East Fenwick Secondary Plan and intermunicipal transit. So it was a very good conversation held here. We also talked about airports. So just sort of a way to ensure that regional issues town issues are highlighted at the region and that interaction. You'll see in my report there's a number of meetings with the CAO and myself, with members of provincial parliament and also members of parliament. For example, the one here with Minister Bradley on the 26th of February, talking about the province's budget, the resolution that council had, and thanking them for the information that was held in the budget. Minister Bradley gave me a copy of the budget. Here it is. Certainly talked about GO and how it's in here on page 71, but also perhaps very important for our community, the extension of grants and the additional grants that are going to be coming from the province over the next number of years for small communities and how that could fit in, and also thanked him for taking away what I call that glass ceiling, which was holding us up from applying and receiving those grants. So very, very productive meeting in that regard. And as I mentioned also, I had meetings with Mr. Biddle, the Member of Parliament for St. Catharines, Mr. Allison, our Member of Parliament, and Mr. Badaway, the Member of Parliament for Niagara Centre, all talking about the need for grants for our community, for recreational and cultural facilities and for other infrastructure, and also giving some of them that may not know us so well, things that are of significant importance in our community, like the East Font Hill development and other developments that are going on. So very, very good meetings, and I appreciate the time that those members of provincial parliament and parliament gave to us. Also was pleased to attend the 22nd Annual Niagara Entrepreneur of the Year Awards, and there's a number of Pelham or Pelham-related individuals that were honored or nominated in that ceremony. So congratulations to Alyssa Girardi, who's the Prime Minister of the Pelham Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. She received the Spirit of Enterprise Youth Award. Mark Maloney, Urge to Purge, received an award for the Emerging Entrepreneur Award, and he's very, very involved. You'll recall that he was the campaign chair of the United Way a few years ago and very involved in the Chamber of Commerce. Larry Boggio and the Boggio family of pharmacies was a nominee for the Established Entrepreneur section. The Bearings, Anna Mary Bearing, White Meadows Farms, for the Agri and Horticultural Entrepreneur, they were a nominee. Roy Kirkup lives in town, member of the Rotary Club, was a nominee under the Technological Entrepreneur. And Rob and Ed Lucetta Holmes, a nominee under the Family Entrepreneur section. So congratulations to each of those for their nominations and awards. And just goes to show the wonderful entrepreneurs that we have in our community. Along with Councillors Durley, King, and Papp, I was pleased to congratulate and honor John Wink as the 2015 Pelham Citizen of the Year. Much of that was highlighted because of his involvement, as we've seen here at our council table and certainly in Peace Park with Summerfest, but also because of his involvement in the community with things like the Pelham Business Association, and previously to that, things like the recreation involvement with sports in our community. So congratulations to Mr. Wink on your award. One of the things that wasn't said that evening was that Mr. Wink lives on Hay Street, and so he normally likes to watch the Canada Day Parade go by. So I don't know if maybe the vehicle will go right into his driveway and go around that round driveway to pick up a beverage or something like that, or celebrate, or whatever it is. I know he likes to watch the parade from his front yard. So congratulations again, Mr. Wink. Thank you for your commitment to our town. And this is my last item that I want to talk about here is something we're very, very proud of, and I had to move it earlier at the start of the meeting, so forgive me for that. Thank you, Mr. CAO. You can hold on to that one. This is another one of these awards. Thank you. This is the 2015 Niagara Community Design Awards for Public Realm Improvement for Fenwick Streetscape Improvements, and a plaque identifying that. Very, very pleased to accept on behalf of council and the community and staff, of course, the members of the Heritage Committee, more importantly, the members of the Downtown Beautification Committee. Really a very, very important project in our community. Very, very pleased to accept this award for the streetscapes. Top award in this field. So congratulations and thanks to all that were involved, planning staff, public works staff, CAO, administration, etc. A huge project for the community. It's gratifying, as I said that evening, to win this award for public realm improvements for Fenwick Streetscape Improvements. This will be added to our collection of awards. One doesn't do these types of things to win awards. It's nice when one does win awards, but it's nice to be recognized from the outside of the great work that we're doing here and the vision that we have to improve our community. So again, congratulations to all. It's a great, great award for us. Thank you. That is my report. Any questions or comments?
Shaving with it.
There being none, I'm going to call the question. It's been moved by Councilor Ribbiak, seconded by Councilor Durley. Be it resolved that Council receive my report for March 7, 2016 for information. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now we move to presentation consideration of bylaws. Is it possible that we might consider bylaw number 4, which is 3718?
Just divide that motion.
Divide that motion and deal with it separately. So how do you want me to do that? Do that one first or second?
You just do the rest of them while you're here.
Okay, thank you. So it's been moved by Councilor Ribbiak, seconded by Councilor Durley. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration following bylaw, do now read first, second, and third time and do pass the same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. 1, bylaw 3715 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3505, a bylaw to establish a system for administrative penalties respecting the stopping, standing, and parking of vehicles. And bylaw 3716 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 1608, a bylaw to regulate parks and facilities in the town of Pelham. Third, bylaw 3717 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 89-2000, a bylaw to regulate traffic and parking in the town of Pelham. Number 4, we're going to be dealing with separately. Number 5, bylaw 3719 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1136 as amended for lands located north of Port Robinson Road and east of Station Street, municipally known as 59, 65, 69, and 107 Port Robinson Road, legally described as Part Lot 17, RP number 71759R-13424, Part 1, Part Lot RP number 11717, 65 Port Robinson Road, Lot 19, RP number 71769 Port Robinson Road, and Township Lot 167107 Port Robinson Road, from agricultural A zone to a site-specific residential multiple 1, RM1, RM1263, residential 2, R2, and residential development, RD zone. Heimel Properties, Inc., Reiner Hummel, it's Hummel Properties, Inc., and Reiner Hummel, 59 and 69 Port Robinson Road, and Elrain?
Lorraine.
Elrain Properties, Inc., 65 Port Robinson Road, Sleek Developments, Inc., 107 Port Robinson Road. And sixth, being a bylaw to amend, so it's bylaw 3720, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1136 as amended for lands located south of Port Robinson Road and west of Rice Road, municipally known as 166 Port Robinson Road, legally described as part of Township Lot 171 from agricultural A zone to a site-specific residential multiple 1, RM1264 zone, Allrain, how do you say that again?
Allren?
Allren Holdings, Inc., file number AM0715. Apologies on names. Discussion on any of those bylaws? There being none, I'm going to call the question on those. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Now I will ask, do you want to, Councilor Durley just wants to do it from there. I will leave because I'm in a conflict.
Second, please.
Sorry?
Just call for someone else to second
Yeah,
because you
okay.
can second it, please.
Okay.
And that's
This was moved by Councilor Ribbiak. I need a seconder because I was a seconder and I can't do that as motion. Councilor Pat? Bylaw 3718, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 1136, 1987, as amended for lands located south of Welland Road and east of Church Street, municipally known as 792 Welland Road, legally described as Plan 16, Part Lot 2, RP 59R 3703, Part 1 and 2, from public P zone to a site-specific neighborhood commercial NC zone, NC 262, with the holding H provision. Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durley. The next item has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King. Be it resolved, the council recess the in-camera portion of the meeting and reconvene immediately following committee of the whole meeting scheduled for this evening. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. This meeting is recessed. Thank you.